When it comes to No Limit Records, there's no denying the label's impact. They flooded the late 90s with a non-stop wave of albums, shaping the sound of Southern hip-hop and building one of the most loyal fan bases ever. But with that loyalty came a lot of overhype. Albums that fans swear are masterpieces, but don't really hold up once you strip away the nostalgia. In this video, I'm breaking down the top 5 most overrated No Limit albums, projects that aren't necessarily bad, but just don't live up to the massive praise they get. Some of these artists are legends, some of these albums sold millions, but when you actually listen to the music, you realize the praise is mainly due to artists being popular over others, as there's a ton of gems in the No Limit catalog. This isn't about disrespect, it's about being honest. No Limit had an incredible run, but not every release was gold, so let's get into it.
It's World War. Can't nobody run high. It's World War, nigga. Everybody's gonna die.
A lot of times when No Limit fans overrate an album, it's because they're more loyal to the artist than the actual music, and sadly Mac falls into that category. Shell Shocked is easily one of No Limit's best albums, but because of that, many fans automatically assume World War III is on the same level. While it has its moments, the album overall feels uninspired, with weaker lyricism, lower energy, and production that doesn't leave much of a mark. The album opens strong with War Party, an energetic track with a great beat switch, and solid chemistry between Mac, Magic, and D.I.G., but the quality dips fast. Best Friends and Like Before both have strong concepts, but Mac's lifeless delivery makes them hard to enjoy. Even when the production shines, like on We Deadly and Bloody, the performances feel generic and repetitive. Things improve midway through. You Never Know featuring Mia X is one of the first tracks where Mac sounds focused, and their chemistry makes it stand out. Just Another Thug and Battle Cry Tomorrow follow that up nicely with more passion and solid production. Lockdown Remix is easily the album's highlight. The emotional storytelling and haunting piano melody remind you what Mac is truly capable of. The later half is more consistent, with songs like Paradise, That's Hip Hop, and Can You Love Me, Eyes of a Killer, showing flashes of Mac's old creativity. Unfortunately, the momentum fades again near the end. Tracks like Genocide, Father's Day, and Assassin Nation recycle the same themes of loyalty and street struggle without adding anything new. Overall, World War III isn't terrible, just average. It has a few great songs, but too much filler and too little energy. Mac's delivery lacks the hunger and sharpness that made Shell Shock so powerful. Fans may praise it out of loyalty, but in my opinion, it's a forgettable follow-up that never reaches its potential. One thing No Limit fans are guaranteed to do is overhype Mia X. Now don't get me wrong, I like Mia X as a rapper. She's got solid flows, strong lyricism, and can absolutely shine when she's locked in. But where she falls short is her discography. When we talk about great rappers, it always comes down to the music, and Mia X's catalog just doesn't hold up. Not against other female rappers, and certainly not against some of her No Limit peers. Her well-known albums feel more like compilation projects packed with features rather than true solo statements. Unladylike is a perfect example. Fans praise it mainly because of who she is, not because it's consistently great. When you really listen front to back, there are just too many bumps along the way. The album starts with You Don't Want to Go to War, a typical No Limit posse cut that feels more like a label formula than a genuine opener. The production is solid, and Mia X delivers a fiery verse, but the chemistry between the features is weak. The Party Don't Stop follows the same pattern, an upbeat instrumental wasted on clunky features, and a lackluster chorus. I Pity You and Who Got the Clout are much better, with Mia X finally matching the dark production and showing off her personality, especially alongside Mystical. Unfortunately, things start dipping again. Tracks like Ain't To Be Played With and Unladylike are conceptually fine but boring in execution. Mia X's delivery sounds flat, and the production doesn't help much. The album's biggest flaw quickly becomes clear: it doesn't feel cohesive. Songs like Forever True and Bring the Drama sound more like random No Limit sessions thrown together, and the endless guest features make it hard to feel Mia X's true presence. Thankfully, the project has some real gems that remind you of her talent. I'll Take Your Man 97 is a phenomenal homage to Salt and Pepper. Energetic, clever, and perfectly executed. Hoodlum Poetry is another standout, where Mia X delivers haunting spoken word from the perspective of crack cocaine. Easily one of the best creative moments in her catalog. Rainy Days is equally impressive, showing a more emotional, introspective side over a beautifully somber beat. While tracks like You and Me and R.I.P. Jill end the album on a heartfelt note, much of Unladylike is weighed down by filler, average production, and features that overshadow Mia X rather than support her. Songs Songs like All Ins and Mama's Family try to recreate that No Limit family energy, but end up feeling forced and generic. In the end, Unladylike is one of the most disappointing listens in the No Limit catalog due to the fact that Mia X is an artist that's highly praised by fans. While there are flashes of brilliance, it's incredibly inconsistent. Mia X proves she's talented, but this project doesn't back up the legendary status fans often give it. Not only is it one of No Limit's overrated albums, it's also one of the label's worst albums due to its many flaws.
That's why I talk it like I bring it like I talk, mom. The life I live, some niggas are scared.
Street Life is one of those No Limit albums that gets overhyped simply because of the artist behind it. Don't get me wrong, Fiend is a talented MC with a distinct voice and strong presence. And his No Limit debut, There's One in Every Family, absolutely deserves the praise it gets. But fans often act like his second album automatically reaches that same level just because of his name. Street Life isn't a bad project, but it's far from one of No Limit's best. It suffers from uneven production, repetitive ideas, and stretches where Fiend's energy can't save the lack of direction. The album starts off well with Street Life skit, a cinematic intro where Fiend reflects on his come up and the struggles that shaped him. The rock show keeps that energy going with a catchy horn-driven beat and Fiend's animated flow shining throughout. The early highlight comes with Talk It How I Bring It, one of the album's best moments thanks to its motivational beat, addictive WAP ad-libs, and Fiend's confident delivery. After that, the project begins to lose steam. Tracks like War for a Reason, Get Into It, and Actin' Bad feel repetitive, weighed down by weak chemistry between features and generic production. Fiend finds his footing again on Heart of a Ghetto Boy, a heartfelt song where he opens up about depression and pain in the streets over a smooth jazzy instrumental. Trip to London also stands out, mixing storytelling with emotion as Fiend reflects on lost friends and missed opportunities. Unfortunately, much of the midsection, including The Truth Is, Been Through It All, and Mr. Womp Womp, feels uninspired, relying on loud snares, basic hooks, and recycled street themes. The album's saving grace comes toward the end. I Was Placed Here is powerful, pairing Fiend with Holloway for a deep reflection on being trapped by your environment. They Don't Hear Me, and If They Don't Know, bring back his signature energy, reminding you why he stood out in the No Limit roster to begin with. The closer, Waiting on God, ends things beautifully, a haunting emotional moment where Fiend questions his faith and the hardships he's faced. Overall, Street Life has flashes of greatness, but doesn't live up to the hype. It's too inconsistent to match the focus of There's One in Every Family. While there are emotional highs and a few strong performances, the album as a whole lacks identity, feeling more like a collection of ideas than a cohesive statement. Fans may call it a classic, but in my opinion, it's a decent follow-up that falls short of Fiend's true potential.
This is for the bourbons and the Cadillacs with the 10s and the 12s bumping in.
Ghetto D is easily one of the most overrated albums in the No Limit catalog. A lot of its praise comes from nostalgia and commercial success rather than musical quality. It's Master P's most recognizable project, featuring hits like Make 'Em Say and I Miss My Homies. But when you really sit with the music, it doesn't hold up as well as his earlier work. His previous album Ice Cream Man had more passion, sharper flows, and a stronger overall vibe. Ghetto D feels like a more commercial version of Master P, polished and energetic, but lacking the raw hunger that made him stand out before. The album starts strong with Ghetto D, where P, C Murder, and Silk trade gritty verses over a dark beat, sampling Eric B and Rakim. It's a perfect opener, conceptually sharp and atmospheric, but from there, the album becomes inconsistent. Let's Get 'Em brings wild energy, but feels over the top and cluttered. I Miss My Homies is a heartfelt standout, showcasing real emotion with Pimp C's presence and Sons of Funk's soulful hook. We Riders and Throw 'Em Up are solid street anthems that keep things steady with sinister beats and solid chemistry. Then the quality dips. Tracks like Trying to Do Something, Plan B, and Weed and Money are either conceptually odd or poorly executed, weighed down by flat production and repetitive flows. Even when the ideas are interesting, like the Captain Kirk metaphor or the warning behind Eyes on Your Enemies, the delivery doesn't always hit. Silk's constant presence also becomes tiring. His inconsistent flow starts to drag the album's energy down. Of course, Make 'Em Say remains a classic, a loud, infectious posse cut where everyone brings their A game, especially Master P and Mystical. But moments like that are rare, while Pass Me the Green and Bourbons and Lax close the album on a decent note. Much of Ghetto D feels padded with filler or half-baked ideas. Overall, Ghetto D has its highlights, but it's far from a masterpiece. It's a fun listen at times, full of creative concepts and nostalgic energy, but musically, it's uneven and overhyped. Master P sounds less inspired than on Ice Cream Man, and the production, though polished, lacks the grit that made his earlier work so authentic.
You could tell I'm a soldier. It's time to go to war. You could tell I'm a soldier.
Charge It to the Game isn't just the most overrated No Limit album, it's one of the most overrated albums in hip-hop, period. Ask any No Limit fan what their favorite album is, and 9 times out of 10, this one will come up. But when you strip away the nostalgia and record sales, what's left is a bland, inconsistent project that fails to capture what made Silk the Shocker's debut, The Shocker, so exciting. On that first album, his wild, unorthodox flow matched perfectly with the gritty, sinister production. Here the beats sound watered down and mainstream, and Silk's performance feels uninspired. A big reason Charge It to the Game is held in such high regard is nostalgia. Fans remember when it dropped, not necessarily how it sounded. People often point to its commercial success, but record sales don't equal musical quality. If you truly listen to the album, it's clear that Silk's energy, delivery, and creativity are far below the standard he set earlier. The album has a few solid moments. Throw Your Hood Up is easily one of the best songs here, with Silk and Snoop Dogg meshing smoothly over a laid-back beat. If I Don't Gotta is another standout, emotional and somber, with a powerful hook and strong verses from Fiend and Silk. It Ain't My Fault remains the album's most iconic track, and for good reason. Mystical's manic delivery and Silk's unpredictable flow blend perfectly into a chaotic anthem that still hits. How Many also deserves praise, with every featured No Limit artist delivering sharp, loyal-themed verses that feel focused and passionate. But outside of those highlights, the album is weighed down by filler. Tracks like We Can Dance, Mama Always Told Me, You Ain't Gotta Lie to Kick It, and What Gangsters Do drag on with dull instrumentals and repetitive deliveries. Silk's offbeat flow, which can be great when controlled, often sounds lazy or out of sync here. Even the big collaborations, like Just Be Straight With Me featuring Destiny's Child, fall flat due to awkward production choices and uninspired performances. The closer, Me and You, is one of the few times Silk truly connects emotionally, dedicating the song to his late brother Kevin Miller. It's heartfelt and personal, reminding listeners that Silk can deliver when he locks in emotionally. Overall, Charge It to the Game is a mediocre, uneven album carried by nostalgia and big names. While it has a few memorable tracks, the majority of the project feels uninspired and repetitive. Silk's creativity and personality shine only in flashes, making this one of the most overrated projects in both the No Limit and late 90s hip-hop catalog. Looking back at all 5 albums, one thing really stands out. Most of these projects aren't bad, they're just victims of legacy and expectation. No Limit had such a massive impact in the late 90s that fans often put the label's reputation above the music itself. When you strip away the nostalgia, you start to notice the cracks. The rushed production, uneven songwriting, and artists who sounded like they were just going through the motions. Take Mac's World War III for example. He's a phenomenal lyricist with real storytelling ability, but this album felt like he'd lost the hunger that made Shell Shock so special. Mia X's Unladylike had moments of brilliance too, but it was weighed down by filler and label formulas that smothered her individuality. Fiend's Street Life suffered from the same issue, good ideas buried under repetition, and a lack of focus. Then you've got Master P's Ghetto D, a commercial success no doubt, but also a clear turning point where the music started feeling more like business than passion. And finally, Silk the Shocker's Charge It to the Game, the perfect example of how nostalgia can elevate an album beyond what it really deserves. It's not unlistenable, but it's far from the classic people remember it as. And that's my take on the most overrated No Limit albums. Too often, these projects get put on pedestals because of blind loyalty to certain artists or pure nostalgia. To me, that's a weak way to judge music. I'm someone who listens to every track on every album without bias or nostalgia clouding my judgment. That's why I'll never really respect most No Limit fans' opinions, because a lot of them don't explore the full catalog. They only care about the popular names and the same handful of albums everyone else praises. Stay tuned for my next No Limit video, where I'll be talking about the real gems in the catalog, the ones that rarely get mentioned but deserve way more love.